Padre Pio drew the number 8 in the air, twice, slowly, and then tilted his hand to the side, as if he were leaning the number 8 until it became horizontal, and he said, "Do you see this? When the 8 lies down, it transforms into the symbol of infinity. And when the 8th day meets the 8th hour of the morning, heaven opens a portal that connects human time with divine eternity." This happened in 1958, and what you are about to discover may completely change your understanding of how God operates in time. In the next few minutes, you're going to understand why November 8th at 8 a.m. is the only time of year when the double 8 creates a spiritual opening to infinity. You're going to hear the story of a man who was dying of stage 4 stomach cancer, and by performing the ritual of the double 8, wasn't cured just once, but experienced 8 consecutive healings over 8 years. Yes, you heard that right. He didn't just receive a favor, he entered an infinite cycle of grace, as if he had connected his life to a source that never runs dry. But there's one detail that most people don't know. The ritual of the double 8 isn't about asking for one thing. It's about asking for permanent access to the infinite flow of divine provision. It's different from a prayer for a favor. The ritual of the double 8 opens a heavenly faucet that never shuts off, and Padre Pio warned, whoever performs this ritual must be prepared. Because when you connect your life to the infinity of God, your life will never be the same. Have you ever felt like you're living on spiritual crumbs? As if God gives you blessings sparingly, rationed, spaced far apart. As if you have to beg for every little grace. And as soon as you receive one, you already have to start asking for the next. It's like living favor to favor, always in scarcity, always in anxiety, always wondering if God will answer just one more time. The truth is, most Christians live like this, in spiritual survival mode, asking, receiving, thanking, asking again, waiting again, an interminable cycle of need and supply. But what if I told you that God never intended for you to live like that? What if I told you that there's a way to connect your life directly to the infinite source, so that graces never stop flowing? That's the secret of the double 8. It's not a ritual for asking, it's a ritual for connecting your finite life to the infinite God. And once that connection is made, everything changes. Not because you start receiving more, but because you start living immersed in the torrent of provision that never ends. And November 8th at 8 a.m. is the only time of year when this portal opens naturally. On any other day or time, you can pray, you can ask, you can plead. But on November 8th at 8 a.m., you can connect, and that difference is everything. Let me tell you the story of Michael Bellini from Providence, Rhode Island. He was 52 years old in November of 1958. Michael was an iron worker. He worked with his hands, a strong, healthy man. He'd never been sick in his life until September of 1958, when he started experiencing severe stomach pains. He went to the doctor. They ran tests, stage 4 stomach cancer, terminal. The doctors gave him 3 months to live. Michael was married to Emily. They had 4 children. The youngest was only 6 years old. When Michael received the diagnosis, he didn't cry. He remained silent for 3 days. On the 3rd day, he said to Emily, "I'm going to die, but before I die, I'm going to a place of pilgrimage. I want to speak with Padre Pio." Emily tried to convince him not to go. He was weak, in pain, losing weight rapidly. But Michael insisted. He took a train to a place of pilgrimage, arriving on November 7th, 1958. He spent the night in a small boarding house, and on the morning of November 8th, at 6 a.m., he was in line for Padre Pio's Mass. The Mass began. Michael was in the back of the church, observing. Padre Pio celebrated slowly, with long pauses, as if he were conversing with someone invisible. When the moment of consecration arrived, Michael felt something strange, a pressure in his chest. It wasn't pain, it was presence, as if someone had entered inside him and was looking out, through his eyes. The Mass ended. Michael waited. Padre Pio left the sacristy to greet the faithful. There was a crowd. But when Padre Pio passed by Michael, he stopped. He looked at him and said only one sentence. "Tomorrow at 8 in the morning, come back here alone." Michael didn't understand. Tomorrow, the 9th, but the next day, November 9th, he was there at 8 a.m. The church was empty, just him and a friar who was cleaning the pews. Michael knelt down and waited. 15 minutes, half an hour. Then Padre Pio appeared. He came walking slowly, leaning on a cane. He sat down on the bench next to Michael and said, "You came here because you are dying." Michael nodded in agreement. Padre Pio continued, "Yesterday was the 8th. Yesterday at 8 a.m. During Mass, something happened. Did you feel it?" Michael said yes. Padre Pio then explained, "On the 8th at 8 a.m., heaven opens a portal. I saw this portal open yesterday during the consecration, and I saw that you passed through it. You entered the infinity of God, and now God is going to do something with you that few people experience. He's going to show you that his life has no end, and to show you this, he's going to heal you, not once, several times. You're going to get sick again, and you're going to be healed again. And this will repeat itself until you understand that the healing doesn't come from you. It comes from the source that never runs dry." Michael was confused. Padre Pio touched him on the shoulder and said, "Go home, and every 8th day of each month at 8 a.m. pray the Lord's Prayer on your knees, just that, the Lord's Prayer, and observe what God will do." Michael returned to Providence. He didn't tell his wife anything. He just waited. A week later, on November 15th, he woke up without pain, completely without pain. He went to the doctor. They ran new tests. The tumor had shrunk by 40%. The doctors couldn't explain it. They called it spontaneous remission. Michael knew it wasn't spontaneous. In December, the tests showed that the tumor had completely disappeared. Total cure. The doctors said, "You were very lucky." Michael said nothing. He just continued doing what Padre Pio had instructed. Every 8th day of each month at 8 a.m., he prayed the Lord's Prayer on his knees. 3 years later, in January of 1962, Michael had an accident at the ironworks. An iron beam fell on his left leg. Compound fracture. The doctor said that he might lose his leg. Emergency surgery, complications, bone infection. Michael was in the hospital when he remembered. February 8th was approaching. He asked the doctors to wait until the 8th to decide about the amputation. On February 8th, 1962, at 8 a.m. sharp, Michael asked the nurses to help him kneel on the hospital bed. They thought he was delirious, but he insisted. He knelt, supported by the bed rails, and prayed the Lord's Prayer. When he finished, he felt an intense heat in his fractured leg. 3 hours later, the doctors ran new tests. The infection had vanished. The bone was regenerating at an accelerated rate. Within 6 weeks, Michael was walking, with no lasting effects. That's the second miracle right there. In 1964, Michael suffered a heart attack, cardiac arrest. He was resuscitated in the ambulance. He spent a week in the ICU. The doctors said his heart was seriously damaged. He would need surgery. But Michael asked them to wait until the 8th. On March 8, 1964, at 8 a.m., Michael prayed the Lord's Prayer in his ICU bed. 3 days later, the tests showed an unexplainable cardiac recovery. The doctors said it was impossible. Michael said it was infinite, a third miracle, and so it continued over 8 years. Between 1958 and 1966, Michael Bellini experienced 8 serious health issues, and he was healed 8 times, always within the cycle of the 8th day at 8 a.m. with the Lord's Prayer, until in 1966 he returned to a place of pilgrimage to thank Padre Pio in person. When Michael entered the sacristy where Padre Pio was, the saint looked at him and smiled. He said, "You understand?" Michael said, "Yes." Padre Pio then explained, "What I gave you was not just a cure, it was access to infinity. You weren't healed once, and that's it. You were connected to the source of life that has no end. And now you understand. No matter how many times you fall, the source continues to flow, because the God who heals you is infinite, and when you enter his rhythm through the ritual of the double 8, you leave the system of counted graces and enter the system of infinite graces." Michael asked, "Padre, but why me? Why did God do this for me?" Padre Pio replied, "Because you needed to learn that God is not stingy. Most Christians think God gives graces with an eyedropper, one today, another in 6 months, if you behave well, if you pray a lot, if you deserve it. But God isn't like that. He is a torrent. He is an ocean. He is infinite. The problem isn't the amount of grace God has. The problem is the size of our faith to receive. And the ritual of the double 8 serves for this, to increase the size of your spiritual vessel so you can receive more." Then Padre Pio revealed something Michael never forgot. He said, "The number 8 on its side is the symbol of infinity. And the 8th day at 8 a.m. is the moment when that symbol materializes in time. It's as if heaven writes a horizontal number 8 in the space between the earth and the firmament. And whoever is spiritually attentive at that moment, whoever is in prayer at that exact instant, passes through that sideways number 8. And upon passing, carries the mark of infinity with them. And that mark never leaves. It remains engraved on the soul. And from then on, the person lives connected to the infinity of God." Michael wrote all of this in a notebook, and that notebook was kept by the Bellini family for decades. In 2005, one of Michael's grandsons, who became a priest, published excerpts from that notebook in a small book called The 8 Healings of My Grandfather. The book has never been translated into other languages, but in Italian, it circulates among devotees of Padre Pio to this day. Now, before I explain how to do the ritual of the double 8, you need to understand something fundamental. This ritual is not for the curious. It's not for those who want to experiment. It's not for those who are testing God. The ritual of the double 8 is for those who are desperate, for those who are at the end of their rope, for those who have tried everything and nothing has worked, for those who need permanent access to the power of God. Because a one-time grace will no longer solve it. And there's something else. The ritual of the double 8 does not guarantee that you will never suffer again. Michael Bellini suffered 8 times, but he was healed 8 times. The ritual doesn't free you from the valley of the shadow, but it connects you with the shepherd who guides you through it, infinitely, without stopping, without failing. Are you ready for that level of spiritual commitment? Because there are more people who have done the ritual of the double 8 and experienced the infinite cycle of provision. Let me tell you about Emily Carter. from Providence. November of 1960. Emily had 7 children. Her husband had abandoned the family 3 months earlier. She worked as a cleaner, but the salary barely paid the rent. She had no way to feed 7 children. She owed money to the bakery, the butcher, the greengrocer. The merchants were patient, but their patience was running out. Emily heard about the ritual of the double eight through a neighbor who knew the story of Michael Bellini. On November 8, 1960, Emily woke up at 7:02 a.m. She prepared the children for school, and at 8 a.m., she locked herself in the room, knelt before an image of the Virgin Mary, and prayed the Lord's Prayer. But before praying, she said, "Lord, I am not asking for a grace. I am asking for access to your infinite provision, because if I ask for today, tomorrow I will be in the same situation. I need to connect with the source that does not dry up. Open the ritual of the double eight for me." Emily prayed the Lord's Prayer slowly. When she finished, she felt a peace she had never felt before. It wasn't relief, it was certainty. She knew, without knowing how, that something had changed, not in the circumstances, but in the connection, on the same day. At 10 a.m., there was a knock on the door. It was the owner of the bakery. Emily thought he came to collect, but the man said, "Emily, last night I dreamed of my mother, who has already passed away. She told me to give you bread for free until you recover. So from today, you can get bread every day. When you can pay, you pay. And if you can't, it doesn't matter." November 9th. The owner of the butcher shop appeared at Emily's house. He said, "I don't know why I'm doing this, but I feel I should help you. I'll give you meat once a week until the end of the year, without charging." November 10th, a lady that Emily didn't even know knocked on the door. She said, "I heard about your situation. I have clothes from my children who have already grown up. I brought them for yours." And she left 3 bags of clothes. November 11th. The parish priest called Emily. He said that an anonymous family wanted to pay 3 months of her rent. November 12th. Emily was called for a job interview at a school. She hadn't applied. Someone had given her name. She was hired on the spot, salary 3 times higher than what she earned as a cleaner. And so it continued, day after day, week after week, month after month, unexpected provision from different sources, as if God had opened multiple taps simultaneously. Emily no longer needed to beg. She simply lived connected, and the provision flowed. 8 months later, in July of 1961, Teresa wrote a letter to Padre Pio, telling him everything. She said, "Padre, I don't know if you remember me. We've never met in person, but I performed the ritual of the double eight that I heard about through the story of a man from Providence, RI, and my life has become a never-ending miracle, not a big, spectacular miracle, but small, daily, constant miracles. It's as if God has placed me under a shower of provision that never stops." Padre Pio responded. That letter is still kept with the Romano family to this day. In it, Padre Pio wrote, "My daughter, you have understood the secret. The double eight is not for those who want material abundance. It is for those who want to live in the conscious dependence on God, because when you live connected to infinity, you never again live in the arrogance of thinking you can do it alone. You live in the humility of knowing that each breath, each loaf of bread, each opportunity comes from Him, and that keeps you small, grateful and faithful. That is where the power of the double eight lies. Not in making you rich, but in making you dependent, and in conscious dependence lies true freedom. Now, I need to explain something to you that will change the way you understand time and eternity. Padre Pio taught that there are 2 types of Christian life, the linear life and the cyclical life. Most Christians live the linear life. You ask for a grace, God grants it. You give thanks, the grace ends. You need to ask again. It's a straight line of need, supplication, provision, need again. It's exhausting, it's distressing, it's living always on the edge. But there is another way. The cyclical life, you enter a cycle of continuous provision, not because you asked once and that's it, but because you have connected to the source that never stops flowing. And the symbol of this cyclical life is the number 8 lying down, infinity. It has no beginning, it has no end. It's a perpetual flow. And November 8th at 8:02 a.m. is the moment when you can enter this cycle. It's not the only possible day, but it is the most potent day of the year, because it is the 8th day of the 8th month of the liturgical calendar that begins in April. It is a rare numerical convergence, and Padre Pio knew this. So listen to me carefully, because I'm going to teach you exactly how to do the ritual of the double 8, and I want you to understand, this is not superstition. This is sacred geometry. This is spiritual alignment. This is you positioning your soul in the right place, at the right time, to receive what God already wants to give you. First step, choose your day 8. It can be the 8th of any month, but November 8th is the strongest. If you can't do it on November 8th of this year, then do it on the 8th of next month, and continue doing it every 8th of each month, until you feel that the connection has been established. Second step, wake up at 7:30 a.m. on the 8th. Do not do this ritual at night. Do not do it at noon. It has to be in the morning, because morning symbolizes the new beginning, and the number 8 is the number of new beginnings. So morning and 8 reinforce each other. Third step, take a shower, put on clean clothes. It doesn't have to be special clothing, but it needs to be clean, because you are going to present yourself before the portal of infinity. And physical cleanliness symbolizes spiritual cleanliness. Fourth step, at 8 a.m. sharp, kneel down. If you cannot kneel, sit down, but do it in a silent place, without television, without a cell phone, without distractions, just you and God. Fifth step, draw the number 8 in the air with your right hand, slowly, as if you were writing the number 8 in the space in front of you, and then tilt your hand to the side, as if you were laying the number 8 down until it becomes the symbol of infinity. Do this 3 times. This physical gesture activates something spiritual. Don't ask how, just do it. Sixth step, say aloud, Lord, I am not asking for a grace. I am asking for access to your infinite provision. Connect my life to your heart that never stops beating. Open the portal of the double 8 for me. May I live from today in the rhythm of your eternity. Seventh step, pray the Lord's Prayer, slowly, paying attention to each word, especially the part that says, give us this day our daily bread, because that is exactly what you are asking for. Not bread just once, but the bread of each day, continuously, infinitely. Eighth step, remain in silence for 8 minutes. Just breathe, just feel. Do not force anything. Do not expect visions. Do not expect chills. Just remain there, positioned before the invisible portal, trusting that something is happening in the spiritual realm that you do not see, but that is real. Ninth step, get up and live the day normally. But with one difference, during the next 8 days, pay attention to everything that happens. Write it down, every coincidence, every unexpected provision, every door that opens. every person who helps, because you will notice a pattern. You will realize that something has changed, not in the circumstances, but in the flow. 10th step, on the 8th of the following month, repeat the ritual and continue repeating it for 8 consecutive months. Why? Because the number 8 is cyclical and you are entering a cycle. So you need to reinforce the entry 8 times. After 8 months, the connection will be so established that you will no longer need the ritual. The connection will be permanent. But there are 3 important warnings that Padre Pio gave, and that I need to pass on to you. And these warnings are fundamental for you not to fall into dangerous illusions. First warning, the double 8 does not exempt you from suffering. Michael Bellini suffered 8 times, but was sustained 8 times. You will continue to go through valleys, but you will not go through them alone. Infinite provision does not mean life without problems. It means God present in each problem. It means that every time you fall, God's hand will be there to lift you up. Not once, not twice, infinite times. But you will fall. Everyone falls. The difference is that those who are connected to infinity do not stay down. They get up, fall again, get up again, and so it goes, sustained by the grace that never ends. Padre Pio used to say, "Don't ask me not to suffer. Ask me not to suffer alone." And that is exactly what the double 8 does. It doesn't eliminate suffering, but it eliminates loneliness in suffering. You suffer accompanied. You suffer sustained. You suffer knowing that provision is coming. It may not come today, it may not come tomorrow, but it will come, because the source does not dry up. And that certainty changes everything. It changes the way you face pain. It changes the way you wait. It changes the way you endure. Second warning, the double 8 does not work for those who want to test God. If you are going to do the ritual just to see if it works, it will not work, because God is not a circus clown. He does not perform tricks to satisfy curiosity. The double 8 works for those who are desperate, for those who need it, for those who have already tried everything and nothing has worked, for those who are at the end of their strength and know that only God can help. There's a huge difference between experimenting and committing. Experiencing something is when you dip a toe in, keeping the other foot outside, ready to bail if things don't pan out. Committing is when you dive in, all in, no reservations, no plan B, and the ritual of the double 8 demands commitment, not experimentation, because God doesn't reveal himself to those who test him. God reveals himself to those who surrender to him. And some folks perform the ritual, don't see immediate results, and declare, "It didn't work." But it wasn't the ritual that failed. It was the lack of total surrender that blocked the blessings. Michael Bellini didn't go to a place of pilgrimage to try it out. He went because he was dying. He had no plan B, no alternative. It was God or nothing. And it was precisely that total surrender that opened the portal. So, if you're going to perform the ritual with one foot in and the other out, don't bother. It'll be a waste of time. But if you're going to do it because you're out of options, because you're at the end of your rope, because it's God or oblivion, then do it. Because then the portal will open. Third warning. The ritual of the double 8 changes you, not just your circumstances. Emily wasn't showered with riches overnight, but she found inner peace. She didn't stop needing provision, but she stopped living in constant anxiety because she understood she was connected. And when you know you're connected to the source, you don't panic when the reservoir seems empty. You wait because you know the source will gush again. Some people do the ritual, expecting life to become a fairy tale, that all problems will vanish, that money will magically appear, that health will be restored, that relationships will be fixed. And sometimes that happens, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes what God changes isn't the circumstances, it's you. He changes your capacity to endure the circumstances. He changes your perspective. He changes your faith. And in the end, you realize that the greatest grace wasn't receiving what you asked for. It was becoming someone who no longer needs that thing to have peace. Emily asked for material provision, and she received it. But what really changed in her wasn't her bank account, it was her soul. She became someone who lives in continuous gratitude, someone who sees God's hand in every little thing, someone who doesn't take anything for granted anymore. And that's infinitely more valuable than financial prosperity, because prosperity can fade, but gratitude cultivated in conscious dependence never fades. Let me tell you one last story. And this is the most striking one. Father Daniel O'Connell. He was a young seminarian from Boston in 1964, 24 years old, in his final year of seminary. His ordination was scheduled for June of 1965, but in March of 1964, Daniel began to have terrible doubts about his faith, doubts about his vocation, doubts about God. The doubts were so strong that Daniel could no longer pray. He could no longer concentrate during Mass. He could no longer read the Bible. It was as if a thick cloud had descended upon him, blocking all light. Daniel considered leaving the seminary, but he was afraid of disappointing his family, afraid he was making a mistake, afraid he was resisting God, or afraid he was following an illusion. Daniel's spiritual director noticed his suffering and said, "Go to a place of pilgrimage, talk to Padre Pio, he will help you." Daniel went. It was early November of 1964. He managed to get a confession with Padre Pio on November 7th. When he entered the confessional, Daniel began to weep. He said, "Father, I don't know if God is real. I don't know if I have a vocation. I don't know if I should continue. I am lost." Padre Pio remained silent for a long minute. Then he said, "Son, you don't need certainties. You need connection. Tomorrow is the 8th. At 8 a.m., you will perform the ritual of the double 8, not to ask for a vocation, but to ask for access to God's continuous presence. Because vocation isn't mental certainty, it's existential companionship. You will spend the rest of your life with doubts, we all do. But if you are connected to the source, the doubts won't destroy you, they will refine you." On November 8th, 1964, at 8 o'clock in the morning, Daniel performed the ritual. He drew the figure 8 in the air, he laid it on its side, he prayed the Lord's Prayer. He remained silent for 8 minutes, and then he stood up. Nothing had changed. The doubts were still there. But something had changed. He was no longer alone with the doubts. Daniel returned to the seminary, and he continued to perform the ritual every 8th of each month: December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, 8 months in a row. In August of 1965, Daniel realized something. The doubts hadn't disappeared, but he had stopped being afraid of them because he was living in a certainty deeper than mental certainty. He was living in the certainty of presence. God was there. Even when Daniel didn't feel it, even when Daniel doubted, the connection was established, and the connection was stronger than the feeling. Daniel was ordained a priest in September of 1965. He served for 47 years as a pastor in 3 different towns, and even today, at 85 years old, still alive, he says. The doubts never completely went away, but the connection never went away either. And between doubt and connection, I choose to live connected. You have just heard 3 stories. Michael, Emily, Daniel, 3 different people, 3 different situations, 3 different outcomes, but all with something in common. They entered the infinite cycle of provision through the ritual of the double 8, and none of them lived in the system of counted blessings. All lived in the system of infinite blessings. And now, I need to ask you a question. Do you want to continue living in the system of counted blessings, asking for one at a time, waiting, anguished, not knowing if God will answer? Or do you want to enter the system of infinite blessings, connect your life to the source that never runs dry, and live in the continuous flow of God's provision? If you've made it this far in this video, if something inside you is saying that this is for you, then it's not a coincidence. The very fact that you are hearing this at the exact moment in your life that you are hearing it is already a sign that God is calling you to the double 8. This channel exists to rescue revelations of Padre Pio that are being forgotten. Revelations like this, one of the double 8. And every video we make is an act of spiritual resistance, because the world wants you to live in scarcity. It wants you to believe that God is stingy. It wants you to give up asking. It wants you to settle for scraps. But the truth that Padre Pio taught is different. God is a torrent. God is an ocean. God is infinite. And you can connect with that. If this video opened your eyes, if you felt that this message is for you, there is a way for you to become a guardian of these revelations. It's the super thanks, that golden heart down there. When you click on it, you are saying, these truths need to reach more souls. These revelations cannot die. And you become part of this mission to keep Padre Pio's teaching about God's infinity alive. Now, let me give you the practical instructions. Today is October 31st. The next 8th is in 8 days, November 8th. This is the most potent day of the year to do the ritual of the double 8. So, you have 1 week to prepare. During this week, do the following. Go to confession, cleanse your conscience, because you are about to enter a sacred portal, and sacred portals demand purity. Not perfection, but a sincere desire for purity. During this week, fast from something. It could be a meal. It could be social media. It could be television. Fast from something that means something to you, because fasting is spiritual language. It's you saying to God, I am willing to give up something temporal to receive something eternal. During this week, read Psalm 103 every day, especially the verse that says, He satisfies your mouth with good things, so that your youth is renewed like the eagles. Because this psalm speaks about continuous provision, it speaks about infinite renewal. And you are about to enter that reality. On November 8th, wake up early, don't miss the time, set your alarm for 7:30 a.m. At 8 a.m. sharp, do the complete ritual, the 10 steps that I taught you, and then live the next 8 days paying attention. Write everything down, every sign, every provision, every open door, because you will see the pattern. You will see that something has changed. And then, on December 8th, you do it again, and on January 8th, and so on, for 8 months. By July of 2026, the connection will be established, and you will look back and realize, I don't live the same way anymore. I have entered the infinite cycle. Now, I want you to do something. In the comments below, write double 8, just that, because I want to know how many people are going to do the ritual on November 8th. And after the 8th, come back here and tell me what happened. Tell me what you noticed. Tell me what changed. Because testimonies strengthen the faith of those who are still doubting. And there's one more thing. If you know someone who is living in spiritual scarcity, someone who is tired of begging for crumbs, someone who needs to connect with God's infinity. Share this video with that person, because the 88 is not a secret to be kept, it is a revelation to be spread. Michael Bellini died in 1974. At 68 years old, not from illness. He died sleeping, in peace. He left written in his will, "I lived 16 years connected to infinity, and those 16 years were worth more than the previous 52, because in the first 52 I lived in the illusion that I needed to earn grace. In the last 16, I lived in the truth that grace is already available. You just need to connect." Emily Romano died in 1998, at 82 years old, surrounded by her 7 children, 18 grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren. At the wake, the children said, "Our mother never became rich, but she lived like a queen because she had something that money can't buy. She had the peace of someone who knows she is connected." And Padre Luigi Bianchi, as I said, is still alive, at 85 years old, and every 8th of each month, at 8 a.m., he still does the ritual because he says, "I no longer do it out of need, I do it out of gratitude, because 61 years ago, I entered the infinite cycle, and I never left." You have the same opportunity. The portal of the 88 is not exclusive, it's not for saints, it's not for perfect people, it's for the desperate. It's for the tired. It's for those who have tried everything and nothing has worked. It's for you. November 8th, 8 o'clock in the morning, do the ritual, enter the cycle, connect to infinity, and then never live the same way again. May the Lord cover you with his mantle of infinite provision. May the number 8 lying down be engraved on your soul, and may you live from today onwards in the rhythm of eternity. Amen.